For a long time, society has been shifting in ways that many men around the world have found confusing. Expectations have changed, values have been challenged, and the idea of what it means to be a good man has been rewritten countless times. Yet, through all of this noise, something powerful has started happening. Men, from New York to Los Angeles, from Chicago to Dallas, and from Seattle to Miami, are beginning to realize something they had overlooked for years. It's not about anger, and it's not about blaming others. It's about reflection, growth, and a decision to step into a healthier, stronger version of themselves. This story follows several men in different parts of America whose journeys all represent one thing: the moment men wake up to a truth that changes their lives forever. In the busy city of New York, James Miller was a man who had given everything to others. A software engineer in his early 30s, James worked long hours, always ready to help colleagues, family, and friends. But inside, he felt empty. He was drained, tired, and constantly worried about whether people respected him. For years, James thought that putting everyone else's needs first would make him loved and appreciated. Yet, the reality was different. One evening, after another long day at the office, James sat alone in his apartment staring at the city lights. A realization struck him. He had been living his life for everyone else's approval, not his own. That night, James made a choice. He began focusing on himself, his health, his passions, and his goals. He joined a gym, took up running, and enrolled in evening classes to learn photography, something he had loved as a child but abandoned in adulthood. Slowly, James felt a change. He wasn't bitter. He wasn't resentful. He simply started valuing himself as much as he valued others. In Dallas, Texas, Michael Johnson faced a different kind of struggle. Michael was a hard-working truck driver who spent long hours on the road. Married for 10 years, he had always believed that providing financially was enough to keep his life balanced. But he noticed that over time, he had lost connection with himself and even with his family. On one particularly lonely night, while parked at a rest stop, Michael reflected on his life. He realized that while he was taking care of his responsibilities, he hadn't been taking care of his soul. He had forgotten what made him happy beyond his job. So, when he got home after that trip, Michael decided to make changes. He spent more time with his kids, taught them how to fish at the nearby lake, and started journaling every night. What surprised him the most was how much peace he felt by reconnecting with his family and himself. Meanwhile, in Los Angeles, Daniel Rivera was dealing with the pressure of appearances. Working in marketing, Daniel lived in a fast-paced world of trends and social media. For years, he thought success meant flashy cars, expensive clothes, and constant validation from others online. He played the part well, but when he lay in bed at night, he felt shallow and unfulfilled. Then came a wake-up call. One day, his car broke down, and instead of feeling frustrated, Daniel felt oddly relieved. For the first time in years, he walked through his neighborhood, sat at a local cafe, and spoke to people without pretending. It struck him that happiness didn't come from what people thought of him, it came from who he truly was. From that day forward, Daniel began living more simply. He focused on friendships, personal growth, and community service. His life shifted from being about what I have to who I am. In Chicago, Robert Carter, a school teacher, had seen generations of young boys struggling with the same confusion he once faced. They didn't know what it meant to be strong, respectful, and grounded. Robert dedicated his evenings to mentoring after-school groups, teaching boys about discipline, kindness, and responsibility. Through his work, Robert realized something that resonated deeply with him. Men around the world were waking up to the idea that strength isn't about domination or control. It's about balance, integrity, and contribution. Across these cities, and many more across the globe, men are realizing key lessons. They are learning that self-worth doesn't come from constant sacrifice or endless validation. It comes from living with purpose. They are realizing that happiness isn't about material possessions or chasing acceptance, it's about living authentically. And they are discovering that true strength lies in balance, taking care of yourself while supporting those around you. The change is quiet but undeniable. In gyms, libraries, classrooms, workplaces, and homes, men are finally finding the courage to step into their true selves. They are no longer blindly following expectations that drain them, but instead are building lives that fulfill them. James in New York found his peace through self-respect and hobbies. Michael in Dallas rediscovered his joy in family and presence. Daniel in Los Angeles learned that simplicity and authenticity bring greater happiness than any flashy lifestyle. Robert in Chicago became a mentor, passing on wisdom so the next generation won't feel as lost as many men once did. This awakening is not about rejecting others, it's about embracing oneself. It's about men around the world finally realizing that they are allowed to live with dignity, peace, and self-respect. They no longer need to prove themselves endlessly or live for applause. Instead, they are building stronger foundations for themselves, their families, and their communities. The movement is quiet, personal, and deeply powerful. And as it spreads, the world is beginning to see the results. Healthier men, stronger families, and communities filled with purpose. Because once a man realizes his true worth, he no longer lives in fear or in search of approval. He simply lives with strength, peace, and authenticity. And that changes everything.